Sounds crazy. In Brazil, farmers are digging war-style trenches just to stop wild boars. In a single night, they can wipe out entire fields, moving in packs and destroying everything in their path. No fences, no electricity, just a deep trench, and it actually works. In some rural areas of Brazil, wild boars are a real nightmare. They don't just destroy crops, they trample corn, uproot cassava, knock over sugarcane, attack livestock, and even spread disease. Just one night can cause thousands of dollars in damage. Many rural residents have grown fed up with their crops being constantly destroyed, so they've decided to take a completely different approach. Instead of relying on electric fences, traps, or chemicals, they've chosen to dig deep, wide ditches around their farming areas. The solution seems simple. When wild boars try to reach the fields, they're met with a deep trench blocking their way. Unable to jump over or climb across, they easily fall in. And once they're down there, getting out is no easy task. At first, the trenches were seen as a drastic measure, but they proved effective. The wild boars either couldn't escape or simply gave up and left. They were completely blocked. Who would have thought such a seemingly crude solution could turn out to be so smart and incredibly effective? These ditches are no joke. In some places, they're dug so deep and wide, they look more like strategic fortifications. But for farmers, it's the most practical way to protect an entire season's worth of hard work. Because wild boars aren't just a nuisance, they're a serious threat. They move in packs and destroy with alarming coordination. One night is all it takes to wipe out months of effort. To make matters worse, these boars also pose a risk of spreading disease. In many parts of southern and southeastern Brazil, a single night can result in thousands of dollars in damage. Tired of constantly dealing with the aftermath, many farmers have chosen to take a proactive approach from the start. That's when these animal defense moats started to appear. The ditches are usually 1 to 1.5 meters deep and over a meter wide. The steeper they are, the harder they are to climb out of. For large fields, construction becomes a real challenge, but many farmers haven't hesitated to dig trenches stretching for kilometers around their land. Of course, it's no easy task, but in return, they get a solution that clearly works. Wild boars can't break in. They either fall in or get discouraged and turn back. Still, some farmers have raised concerns. If these ditches become common, could the boars eventually learn to avoid them? Or more simply, they might just move on to areas without ditches. That's why a defense system needs to be designed in a coordinated way, not just as isolated efforts. Another big advantage: no electricity, no fences, no poison. No need for constant supervision. No risk of being tampered with. They just sit there, quietly doing their job, like a natural, silent defense wall that's incredibly solid. It's very hard to get past these ditches. They work silently. No panic for other animals, no smell, no electricity, no chemicals. Sounds almost perfect, right? But like any solution, it comes with a price, and the biggest downside is the cost. To build these kinds of ditches, you need heavy machinery, skilled labor, fuel, and a lot of time. For large farms or land as hard as rock, the construction isn't just expensive, it can take days to complete, posing a real challenge for any farmer. Digging a ditch isn't as simple as grabbing a shovel and getting to work. It's a serious investment, both financially and in terms of planning. In many areas, the cost per meter can exceed $2, which might not sound like much, but if a farm's perimeter stretches 5, 10, or even 20 kilometers, that number quickly climbs into the tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that's just the initial cost. In the long run, maintenance also adds up. In areas with heavy rainfall, the soil can erode easily, and the ditches may fill with mud, turning into stagnant puddles or clogged channels. What started as a defense structure can quickly become a muddy mess if not properly maintained. And for large farms with rock-hard soil, digging ditches isn't just more expensive. It also takes significantly more time and effort. That's why a proper drainage system is essential, including flow channels, outlets, and even retaining walls to help preserve the ditch's structure year-round, especially during the rainy season. Safety is another critical factor that can't be overlooked. If not clearly marked, these ditches can become dangerous traps. There have been cases where machinery fell into ditches, workers slipped in the dark, or trucks got stuck trying to cross areas without proper access. Clear warnings and well-designed pathways are absolutely crucial to prevent accidents. The safest approach is to use highly visible signs placed in clearly marked locations. It's best to avoid placing ditches near areas with heavy foot or vehicle traffic. For necessary crossings, building small bridges or installing drive-over paths can help ensure smooth and uninterrupted movement. There's another factor that many people tend to overlook: terrain. This method works best in areas with flat or gently rolling land. But if the property is in hilly terrain, full of large rocks, or deep in the forest, things get much more complicated. Construction in those conditions requires significantly more effort, specialized equipment, higher costs, and sometimes the results just don't justify the investment. And the trouble doesn't come from wild boars alone. There are plenty of other pests out there causing headaches for farmers. The most notable are Java porcos, hybrids between wild boars and domestic pigs, stronger, tougher, and far more destructive. And that's not all. Some native species like peccaries aren't exactly gentle either. They often move in herds, storming into fields like a whirlwind, tearing through everything from corn and sugarcane to peanuts and cassava. Nothing is safe. In many areas, these raids happen regularly and have become a true nightmare for farmers. In some U.S. states, helicopters are used to snipe wild boar herds from the air. In Australia, they set traps and use trained dogs to chase them off. But all of these methods are expensive and come with ecological consequences. In that context, Brazil's ditch digging approach is seen as one of the rare, low-cost, effective, and sustainable solutions. The state of São Paulo is one of the hardest hit areas. There have been reports of wild boar herds over 200 strong at once. Just imagine, a wild stampede tearing through the fields in the dead of night. The sound of snapping plants, dirt flying, and by morning everything is reduced to ruins. That's why more and more farmers are turning to proactive solutions, and large ditches are gradually becoming the new fortress walls of modern farms. And there's one more species that can't be ignored: the capybara, also known as the water pig. They may look calm sitting by the river, but out in the fields, they're a serious threat. Capybaras have strong territorial behavior. Once they find a food source, they tend to stick around. They graze relentlessly, especially when the crops are young and most vulnerable. This leads to damage right at the start of the season. When plants die and the soil is left bare, the fields quickly become a breeding ground for weeds, pests, termites, and a host of other problems. A small loss early on can rapidly spread, triggering serious consequences for the entire crop cycle. That's why farmers have to stay proactive and stay one step ahead of every threat. So when you see a field surrounded by what looks like wartime trenches, don't laugh. Because what you're looking at is the work of farmers fighting to protect the most valuable things they have: their crops, their land, and their future. Every meal you enjoy today is thanks to someone out there digging trenches in the fields. Share this video so their voices can be heard. No frills, just the truth. See you in the next video, wishing you good health and a bountiful harvest.
Thank you.